So hey, I'm Jared Alper. I'm Good Party's political director, and I'm here today with Terry Vo, who is running for Metro Council in Nashville in 2023.
Here we are.
Tell the people who you are.
Hi, I'm Terry Vo. I'm running for Metro Council District 17 in Nashville, Tennessee. I am a first-time candidate. I'm very excited to interview with Good Party today.
Well, I think the very first question that I certainly wanted to ask, and before we got the cameras rolling, is just how's the campaign going?
Sure, the campaign, I will tell you, it's going great. But mentally for me, I am always like, I'm a dollar short and I'm 3 doors behind. And I think that's a really good mental state for me to be in. But on my weekly calls, we had a really great call today on the team. We're hitting our, milestones and goals that we have. So love it. Like, it's exciting to go into early voting. We're already in the throes of it on a very positive note.
Do you feel like the energy's really picked up once early voting started in a way that it maybe hadn't, like up until people could actually take the, do the thing, which is voting?
Yes, I think right now there's so much mail going into mailboxes. So if you were dormant or not sure what was going on, you know now. So yes, you have your early voters who know who they're voting for, and then everyone else is like, what do I do? And so now everyone is getting excited. People are dropping out of the race, and there are lots of changes happening. So I think people are it's piquing their interest.
Yeah. So I think the big question as well is kind of just to back up even, because now we're getting ready to vote, but the big question that I always ask candidates is what got you into this crazy idea in the first place, which is to run for office?
Yeah, I think people have asked me that along the campaign trail for months now. And I think the question was I feel like it was when I was gonna run. So I've always wanted to run for office, and I used to think that I needed to finish, my degrees, get a good job, get married, have kids, and then run. And I think definitely in the last, I would say, 8 years, it's been actually no, representation for so many of us in our country. We need it now. We needed it 10 years ago. And so for me, I feel super pumped that, for me, it was time with the open race. It was exciting, but I hope to encourage other people who are thinking about it to not wait as long as I did.
What would you say to those people who might be on the sidelines but thinking, well, why not me?
Yeah, I would tell them really your voice matters, your experience in your life, and look at, who is running your city right now, who's running your state right now. And if you don't see yourself, it's you that needs to be in that seat.
I think the message that people often have too is well, someone else could maybe do it and they don't want to go through the ringer, but over time there's that moment that kind of convinces them that they don't really have a choice but not to run.
Yeah.
Do you have, when you were planning a run for office or you were really thinking hard about doing it, was there a moment that you could kind of single back to and say, this was the moment that I knew I was going to run specifically for this office this year?
Sure. Okay. I think for mine, it's twofold. So I have been, a neighborhood leader and community leader for a long time. And I think that when I spoke with the current council member in my district 4 years ago and was is it, should I run? Is it a good time? And he gave me the lay of the land in terms of how much money I would probably need to raise and what I would need to do. And I think that helped me to just level set. Okay, maybe I'm not ready in this cycle, but I can prepare for the next one. So that was really important. And then 2, when I looked at the Metro Council myself, and 8 years ago there was, Mina Johnson. She, was the first API, Metro Council member we've ever had in, Metro Nashville history. It was really important to me that was happening, but then next cycle, no one. And we can't have that, right? The same thing. We cannot just have Barack Obama. We have to have more, We have to have there's so many great diverse leaders. And I think those 2 things were Terry, if you don't do it, who's gonna do it? And, I was it's time. I can do this. I've done the work. I have results that I can show, and I'm ready to do the work.
You actually touched on something that I'm fascinated by, which is, the process of deciding to run. I think we certainly make it a part of our tool set. Oftentimes people who are running for office, they kind of end up in this this sort of canoe without a paddle and without any wind. And we really focus on preparing people to run for office, and with the theory that a prepared candidate is going to be obviously a stronger candidate. But they can do it without having to be off to the races and also building the plane at the same time. And you talked about speaking to the incumbent council member, who I'm sure gave a lot of insight. Is there anyone else that was influential in your decision basically to run, or who you thought it was really important to seek the input of before you made the decision to do it?
100%. I think that preparation is key. One thing that I'm so grateful for is Emerge Tennessee. I went through that program, and that was so helpful. That's something that, it's several weeks, a couple of hours, and you're in a cohort. And it was really amazing to me because there were people in my cohort that were running at the same time they were doing it. And I was like, how? And so I'm so grateful that I did it before I ran, because I think it gave me a really strong foundation. Then I seeked out and I was part of the APAC's National Leadership Program. So I flew to DC, went through a long weekend with other people that look like me, that have won their race, were currently running, or were interested. And I will tell you, everyone should look for programs like that because they're so critical. And platforms like you all, right? One. The Good Party, it was so fabulous because as I was going through everything and filling it out, there are things that I'm like, oh, I'm very aware of this because I've been through it. But for someone, right, that's totally brand new to it, it was very helpful to go step by step. And I think that it's really important to not only know and go through that, but have a person that you can actually one-on-one speak to. And it's really important locally. Find someone, whether it's the seat or the council or state, whatever you're wanting to run for, people who have formerly held that seat currently are so important and can give you a lot of insight.
Yeah. Do you have any nuggets of wisdom or a piece of advice from someone when you were planning to run, or even just before you sort of made the decision, were thinking about it, that they gave you that is held true on the campaign trail?
Let's see. Of course, fundraising is tough. And I think that for me, knowing how much I needed to raise for my race was critical. And it has come to fruition. And so I think with that, you need to know you're going to have to ask for money. And I think that a good advice is how to do that, right? And then how to build that Rolodex, because it is the people like that who are going to support you. And, I'm really grateful that I had a really deep Rolodex and, was but then how to actually activate it. So that was really important because that's a huge part, because you could be an amazing candidate, but if you do not have the funding to actually tell people, they'll never know. They'll never know who you are. Second, field. You have to know field. And if you don't learn or get someone who is an expert or someone that's willing to help you, that is just as critical. So those two things that people talked about, 100%. You cannot have a successful campaign without funds and without a field plan.
Yeah, you're talking in so many ways about when we sort of deconstruct a campaign. It's always refreshing to hear a candidate saying look, I knew what my goals were. I had planned this thing out pretty well, and then it just comes down to doing the work.
Yes.
And so even broadly, what's been, you're going to doors, you're talking to people. What are the things that you're hearing back of the state of the city and what they're looking for in their municipal government?
Yeah, definitely. I had really focused on doing a listening tour. So it's been really awesome because I've had a really good feedback from constituents and not only, voters, but also small business owners and stakeholders. But everyone wants safety. Everyone wants to feel safe where they live, where they work, where they play. And, without safety, what other things matter at that point? Because if you don't feel safe in your home, you don't feel safe in your car. So that's been really big. 2, infrastructure here. I mean, we need, to not rely on cars so much. Because if that's the case, we're just going to be sitting in traffic. So people care about that. People care about the history and the character of their neighborhoods. So we're seeing, with development, there's been some, where neighbors have told me, Tara, I moved into this place because I wanted a neighborhood, not an investment hood. And I think that was really, really eye-opening. And it was oh yeah, how do we, when we have people who invest not just in their parcel, but in actually that entire neighborhood, because people are there. So that's been really important. And what else? They want education for their kids. They want, fully funded public schools and, so many more things, but affordable housing too. so important. We're missing that. We need more housing, and we need more like low income and the missing middle, so that people from all walks of life can have that, opportunity for homeowner attainment if they want it, but also for renters to have a reasonable, rent every month.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome that I've run a couple of listening tours in my past life. I think that it's a critical first step, because it's one thing to sort of come prepared with your own ideas, but too many times candidates are not taking in impact or insight from their community, and they're just kind of on their bully pulpit saying, "I know how to fix all these problems," and in reality, they're like, "Well, these aren't even the problems we want you to solve."
Yeah, exactly.
So I see obviously you're doing the work, you're knocking doors, you're making calls, you're having events, and presumably I can tell you're getting people excited about the campaign you're running. How important to accomplishing all of these big goals that you're setting out for has just been people power. How has that impacted the campaign? How important has it been to build a coalition and activate them?
Yes, I felt like that was the one thing I left out when I was like field and funds, and I was
People.
like, and fun people. So yes, I mean, without volunteers, without my staff, without, of course, the community behind you, you can't run a successful campaign. So I'm super, super grateful for every person that has volunteered their time, their talent and their treasure, because we need it all. A campaign, in a way, is its own little small business that you have to build quickly, build fast, and do everything, so quickly, and get that messaging across to, win your race. So yeah, I'm so grateful to everyone, and poll workers are my next target. So I'm hoping I will be fully staffed for my poll workers come August 3rd.
So we're going to wrap up. I think we have two more questions, and one that I've been dying to ask, and I know we've even spoken about it kind of in the past, which is the state of politics. Nationally, obviously, is one thing, but I think partisanship, tribalism, it kind of trickles down and has created an environment in our political life, but also just our cultural life, where things feel like they're like this too often. And how important has it been to you to be someone who's very openly, not trying to be a cookie cutter politician, says what she thinks, is independent-minded? How important has that been in sort of trying to break out of the tribal state of our politics?
Oh, I think it's so critical, and I think it's refreshing, and I think that's what people want. It's someone that they can trust, right? And someone who is willing, everyone knows politics is tough. So, a lot of people have been like, "Are you sure?" And then people are like, "Thank you so much for stepping up." So I think it's so critical that we have more people who are independent, who do not, sway one way or the other, but really want to look at things logically and what's best for the people. Because if we center the people, that is when I think we're going to be back on track. And as a country, we really need to look at that. When decisions are being made, is it best for the people? How, who is being harmed in this, and centering that? And we're not asking those questions because it's easier to just attack the other side. And I think we've got to get rid of the sides, because we're actually all on the same team. It's our country, it's our world, it's our city. When you hurt, even in Tennessee politics, it's if you're hurting Nashville, you're actually hurting Tennessee. So that doesn't make sense at the end of the day, what kind of strategy that is. So I'm really hoping that we can center people again, and that we really, have a vision for what do we see? And I think that all of us want, our neighbors to feel safe and be safe, have a livable wage, and be able to thrive, right? And, I think all of us can really get behind that.
Yeah, it's the adage is true. There's more than unites us than divides us, but the people who are the uniters look at the state of politics and are this just isn't for me. So it's obviously encouraging to see people come in with a very different mindset.
Yeah.
My favorite question to ask candidates, I may have said that a few times over the course of our conversation, but I have a lot of favorite questions. Because you're in the heat of this, I'm sure you're taking the time to just reflect and kind of soak it all in. But I think when you run for office, you learn something about yourself from interacting with people you might never have met that you didn't know already.
Yeah.
So have you had that moment where or even just something that you could share that you learned about yourself through the process of running for office that you might not have known had you not put your hat into the ring?
I definitely know that perseverance is, I know I have it, but it has been activated during campaign life. And also that I really have applied, active listening, and, whenever you want to quit, I've had many moments where you're oh, it's easy to just be no, let's not do that, or like, let's just, that's the last call, but to do one more call, to do one more door, to make one more ask. And I think that is really, I think it's almost like doubled down that like I am ready for, like running for office, because that's what life is going to be. You're going to want to quit a lot, but you need someone who won't quit fighting for you. And so I think that's something that's been solidified in my run over the, like 5 months, 4 months, going on 5, on running a campaign and getting out there and putting myself out there. So, yeah.
Well, you're almost there.
I know.
We're almost done. And we're obviously so just stoked that you're doing this, that you're running, and are eager to be as supportive as we can. You may be the first candidate in crunch time who's actively swearing off caffeine, so I have no idea how you've managed to do that, up to this date. But I mean, this was fun. I'm really glad that we were able to get connected and work together.
Me too. It makes me so happy. Like, seriously, thank you so much, Jared.